Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Wednesday, May 28th, 2025, and today I'm going to give you my latest random farm model idea to critique. I'm going to talk a little bit about shaping the farm around kids, and does a tractor always lead to soil compaction? So let's do it. All right, well, welcome to Wednesday, everyone. I hope your weeks are cruising along nicely. Yesterday for us was mostly a harvest day, but it was also rainy, which slows all of the work down a bit, but we got through it. We're getting used to rain. It's a lot of it's raining right now, in fact. Then last night, we had our weekly pickup soccer meeting for the kiddos in town. Basically, in the off season, a bunch of local parents and I get the kids together to let the kids just like play pickup soccer and just enjoy the game, and we've been doing that for like 3 years or so now. In much of the world, kids can just kind of like go outside and play in the streets or walk to the local park or whatever. In rural America, though, the pickup soccer has to be somewhat manufactured. So that's what we do. We kind of manufacture it. And it had me thinking of an idea of how to incorporate a farm or farming in sports. Look at me with an actual transition. All right, so a few months back, I presented an idea of a farm that was basically 3 farms in one, like one in a colder region, one in a temperate region, and one in a tropical or subtropical region that were all kind of like in line close together, specifically like maybe like Florida, Kentucky, and Michigan or something like that, all along I-75. And they could all sort of act in concert together, shipping food back and forth during different parts of the season. The tropical farm, for instance, could provide citrus to the colder farms, and the colder farms could bring in produce all summer to the tropical farm that would have a hard time producing much of anything in like July. You get the idea. And that business model had some fun responses. So I thought whenever I have a harebrained farm business idea, I would share it with you and you all could critique it. All right, so this is purely hypothetical, obviously, but the goal with this particular farm business model is to combine several things I love, in this case sports, with ecology, food, and farming. Basically, take something that is somewhat known for being completely detached from nature and attach the two. So I want you to tell me in the comments, would it work? Is it dumb? Or is it just like Jesse? No, Jesse, put it down. Cool? Cool. Okay, so now I call this business idea Farm FC. Soccer fans will know the reference there. FC stands for football club. Football is in soccer. It's attached to a lot of different clubs around the world. But for this business idea, it wouldn't have to be soccer necessarily. It could be baseball, American football, tennis, lacrosse, a mixture of sports, whatever. The sport doesn't really matter. It's an integration of the sport and food and farming. That is the focus. So here's the pitch. Farm FC is a youth soccer organization that focuses not only on teaching the beautiful game, as soccer is often referred, but providing players with a foundation in agriculture and food preparation. The mission of Farm FC is to provide players with skills in gardening, animal husbandry, business planning, food preparation, and naturally, soccer. Okay, so why this combination, you might be asking? Beyond, these are all seem to be like things that Jesse's into. Well, the fact is that 99.99% of people who play a sport like soccer or whatever will never go on to be pros. They will, however, go on to be adults, which, is something you need preparation for. A lot of the time and energy will be dedicated to the game, and without question, important skills will be learned through, learning how to play soccer, but not as many skills as could be. Moreover, many children who play sports do not have access to high quality food, the kind of food that could help them sustain in their sport for longer, but also in their own health. Kids are under a lot of social pressure, and depression is up among teenagers, while simultaneously we know that gardening and sports in particular can help reduce those stress levels while increasing one's overall mental and physical health. Also worth noting that it isn't just things like social media leading to increases in depression, but the lack of physical activity as well caused by devices. We need to at some point just reckon with the fact that those things are addictive and dangerous, and they should be treated like any other drug. But anyway, things like home ec that once taught basic cooking skills are not always, or perhaps at least commonly, available in schools these days. So how would Farm FC help? Well, this would be somewhat of a summer academy for kids, where they would spend their days helping in the gardens and with the animals, with breaks to play and learn about, in my dream, soccer. And lunch would be cooked by a rotation of players. There would be a big communal meal. It'd be a lot of fun, sort of like a summer camp. I think I'm kind of describing a summer camp. Anyway, the grounds would be a mixture of large gardens, soccer fields, ecological areas, forests, native hedges, and waterways. Days would be spent learning about how to play soccer, but also learning about about in engaging in food production and preparation. So how would Farm FC be funded? You may be asking, because I kind of was asking. In other words, what is the Farm FC revenue model? So glad you asked. Well, of course, the options exist to charge the players for their attendance, but I think a better goal would be to make it free, or at least have a work exchange option with strict labor rules in place, obviously. Instead, how Farm FC would sustain itself financially is, let's imagine it first like a non-profit business model. It could be sustained partially through on-site produce and plant sales, hosting soccer seminars, as well as farming conferences, regional soccer tournaments. I mean, like the Fruit Cup, the Salad Bowl. The puns here are endless. I feel like this could be a lot of fun. Also, having the best concessions of all time won't hurt with the revenue. Recreational, potentially also adult soccer leagues could take place on the grounds in the fall, winter, and spring. All of that could exist in a for-profit version as well, but in the nonprofit scenario, obviously donations would be a big part of the finances, as well as things like grants. And like any business or nonprofit, I see the funding as something that would have to be dynamic. So yeah, that's kind of it. What do you think? Anyone want to give me a couple $1 million to give it a shot? That could be fun. For me, I just love the idea of incorporating things that are not associated with farms or farming or ecology and food with those things, because, well, at some point, we're going to have to do that with everything. Might as well start with some sports. Anyway, clearly that's what's on my brain this Wednesday. What say you? Let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, is a tractor all bad when it comes to compaction? BRB. Today's episode is brought to you by Farmhand. I started a CSA to grow food and build community, not to drown in admin work. Spreadsheets, emails, and pack lists take up too much time. If I could spend less time at my desk and more in the field, that'd be a win. Enter Farmhand. Farmhand automates billing, newsletters, websites, and member support, saving CSA farmers 20 plus hours a week. Focus on farming, not paperwork. See how Farmhand can help. Book a one-on-one demo with founder Ari at farmhand.partners/no-till. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. Today's episode of Growers Daily is also brought to you by Ring of Fire. What if you could turn your brush problem into black gold? The Ring of Fire biochar kiln is your spring tool for soil transformation, converting woody debris into high-quality biochar in just hours. Biochar will kickstart your compost, retain water and nutrients in your soil, and provide habitat for beneficial microbes. Now $19.95 with flat rate shipping. Their spring sale runs through June. Don't wait to boost your soil and optimize your inputs. Visit ringofire.earth/growers now to learn more. Also, for more information on biochar, check out the No-Till Market Garden podcast interview with Kelpie Wilson, inventor of the Ring of Fire kiln, that we will link in the show notes. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers. Does this show bring you $2 worth of value a month? $5? Could you imagine it not being here? Would that be worth $1 or $2? You can contribute over at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers. And I will try to get to questions from wherever questions come in, but I will always get to those Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes from Patreon member IB Taylor123, who writes, quote, "How heavy is too heavy for a tractor? Obviously, the John Deere 9RX is too much, but many of us use a BCS or drive mowers across our garden beds. More specifically, what about in an agroforestry setting? I was watching a talk recently given by Nazirak Amen in which he was talking about his tractor/combine setup for small grains, and it seems like that machine power is what really made the enterprise possible. Also, machine harvesting of berries or nuts can reduce harvest time in some instances from like weeks to days. It's hard for me to change my thinking from tractor equals bad to something more nuanced. Would operating a compact tractor and or combine periodically cause serious compaction issues? Would rotational grazing animals in the same areas help? Thanks for everyone at No-Till Growers for putting in the work to bring us this program daily." End quote. All right, thank you. And thank you for the very fun question here. Shouts to Nazirak Amen, a friend of mine, love his work. So the thing that needs to be understood just in general about compaction is that it is most easily created when conditions are ripe for it and with frequent impact events. And okay, that may sound obvious, but perhaps not. Let's first start with the conditions. Conditions are ripe for creating significant compaction when the soil is bare, when the soil is wet, and when the soil is dense, like clay. That doesn't mean soil with plants in it can't become compacted, but those are the factors when the soil is most susceptible to compaction from tractors, animals, feet, etc. If the soil is covered in, say, grass, for instance, not only does the grass above ground help protect the soil against compaction, but the roots as well. When the soil is wet, the clay particles are more easily smashed together, leading not only to surface compaction, but compaction below ground. Sandy soils can also become compacted to some extent, depending on their makeup, like in how coarse they are, but are generally coarse enough so that air and water can usually find their way around the soil particles. Unlike in clay, which is really fine and can smash together easily. Now, the other factor is frequency and duration of heavy compaction level events, for lack of a less official sounding term. How about frequency and duration of heavy stuff? Anyway, when you have a lot of heavy stuff on a grass field for a very short time, a short duration, then the likelihood for significant compaction is lower. So let's say you drive a combine through a field once per year to harvest berries, and maybe a few other times to mow around those berries or whatever. But for the rest of the year, the field has a cover crop or grass or whatever. Then I'm not as concerned with compaction. Now, if you were driving over a bare field, cultivating multiple times throughout the season, possibly in a less than ideal soil conditions, like it's a little wet, but you have to get the job done, or maybe you plow up a field, and again, it's a little bit too wet, but you have to get the job done, I'm going to be more concerned about compaction in those scenarios. Or you mentioned animals that are moved with great frequency through a field, like in a rotational grazing system, are less likely to cause compaction than animals that are not rotated at all, called continuous grazing. Again, it's about frequency, duration, and conditions. Also, it should be said that grass is not a miracle worker either. Many lawns become compacted from over mowing too low to the ground and too often. If you want to build up soil in a pasture, you graze it lightly and move the animals off to allow the plant to rebuild, and then graze it again in 3 weeks to a month after a little bit of new growth. So some of those roots die back, they create a little bit of soil organic matter, and then the plant continues to grow, put its roots down deeper and grow a little taller. That is harder to get away with when it comes to lawns, but as long as you allow for more than just a 3-inch tall grass lawn there, then you're likely to maintain some of the air and water capacity, as well as the microbial habitat and populations that compaction takes away. So for me, for sure, there are ways to utilize tractors and heavy animals in a way that is beneficial to both the soil and the farmer, but it just has to be carried out thoughtfully. And if you end up with compaction, or you are starting out with compaction, it can be addressed. It just may take some physical intervention at the right moisture level with something like a subsoiler, getting deep down into the soil and breaking up some of that compaction. All right, well, let me know any thoughts you all have on that. I mean, sure, there is a point at which the weight of a tractor is likely to cause compaction no matter the conditions, but a small tractor like the one that Nazirek uses, like one of his cool little combine rice tractor harvesters driven over a field like one time a year at harvest, I'm less concerned about that. Otherwise, going to take a real quick break, and when we come back, we will discuss how kids shape a farm. Be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by FarmRaise. Still struggling with your balance sheet? Your lender's asking for a balance sheet and you're stuck with a spreadsheet mess or guessing your numbers? FarmRaise Tracks takes the stress out of farm finance. With one click, you can generate an accurate, up-to-date balance sheet that shows your assets, liabilities, and equity. No accounting degree required. You'll be ready for loan applications, tax season, or just a clearer picture of where your farm stands. Join thousands of farmers using Tracks to build stronger businesses. Get 20% off with code NOTIL20 at farmraise.com for the lifetime of your membership. Today's episode is also brought to you by Precip. Precip is billed as the easiest way to keep track of rainfall, and that is true, but it is a lot more than that. Sure, you can open the app and immediately see accurate rainfall totals, but you can also save locations to see historical rainfall totals, wind speeds, and all sorts of other nerdy details. Their radar-based technology means you can ditch the rain gauge. I usually have to do that anyway because the kids find a way to smash it with a baseball bat. You can ditch the rain gauge and start tracking rain and other growing conditions all on your phone. Click the link in the show notes to find out more. All right, back to the show. All right, so I got this cool Patreon question that I thought would be fun for today from Patreon member Bonagard, who writes, quote, "Hey, Jesse, like you, I've been both a chef and a farmer, but I don't think you had a kid literally sitting on your hip while doing culinary work. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong. As an owner of a restaurant, caterer, and chef, I watched all of my dishes change as I cooked them with a kiddo in a boba wrap or hanging on my shoulder. I also watched my farming practices change as I had kids running near and sometimes through the beds. I'd like you to wax poetic about how many of our cultural cooking and farming practices might be based on having kiddos underfoot. Not a specific question, just an opportunity for another dad/chef/farmer to share his thoughts. Love, Ricky and Eric, who is delightful even if he's often underfoot, end quote. Thank you. Great topic, and hi to little Eric and all of our younger listeners. So you are correct. When I was cooking professionally, I definitely did not have kids. I was a complete mess. So that was probably a good thing. But even if I'd sobered up, which I would like to think I would have if I had had kids, having them around that world would have been quite the challenge to manage for sure. The hours are brutal. The physical and mental wear is near constant. I probably would have become just like a daytime chef, honestly, doing lunches or a food truck or catering or something less intensive almost without question. But also, kids have been a part of the kitchen since time immemorial. And your question has me wondering which specific practices that we use in the kitchen today in general might have been developed for that reason. I think of, it's like certain traditions and cultures not using cutting boards at all, but rather using things like scissors or knives or just hands to rip or cut produce while, for a stock pot while they held their children. Maybe you had a baby in a sling that's just easier than standing in one place chopping on a surface. Also, of course, table space is somewhat of a modern luxury. Our youngest child grew up around like a constantly burning cook stove, and I'm surprised "hot don't touch" weren't his first words for how many times we said it, but he learned, and to my knowledge or recollection, never really touched that wood stove. One of our children is also more interested in food and cooking than the other, including in the gardens, and although the timing is not always great when we're tired and just want to, get the dinner done or the harvest done or whatever, and they want to help, I've made a rule for myself to always say yes and find something for them to do. We used to make a lot of handmade pasta, and they love catching the pasta as it got rolled and got sliced up and rolled out the other end of the pasta machine. Pasta making is actually something I need to get back in the habit of, but soon enough. In the garden, my child philosophy is generally just like not to force it on them, just make sure the opportunity to get engaged is there. And yeah, also involve them if they ever ask to do something. Not much of our practices have been geared around the kids underfoot so much. I mean, not specifically, but certainly when they were younger, there were instances of a toddler tearing out every plant transplant we had just put in the ground. But when I think about it, there probably are ways in which we've designed the farm around the kids beyond just like we have a trampoline always. For instance, we don't own a large tractor. That is very much a safety thing as much as an expense thing. And I don't know that I technically have enough work for a tractor, I guess, but the safety thing does matter. Tractors are large, unforgiving machines, so I like to make sure to have as few of those sorts of things around for the kids as possible, at least while they're young. We also don't have any small ponds around here yet, as much as I would like to have them, just out of fear of a kid falling in before they know how to swim. Now that the kids are both capable swimmers, I'm less concerned with that and can build a couple small ponds and may soon if I want. But we held off for many years just because we didn't want to risk that. Also, not that we could have afforded large acreage, but we chose intensive farming because we could go out into the garden with the kids right inside and not have to drag them around a large farm all day necessarily. Also, of course, especially when they were young, but even now, dangerous tools like knives and a saw, etc., are kept somewhat out of reach, which isn't always convenient for us, but is convenient for taking that risk off our brains. So in that way, the kids have, had some say in the design. At the same time, though, I don't like the idea of kid-proofing things. Kids need experience. They need a chance to learn what is dangerous and what is not, and how to be around dangerous things. We let our kids stir the hot pot of food, for instance, because they need to learn how to be around heat and steam without getting burned. We let them harvest with us or carry heavy things so they can get a feel for how to do those things without getting injured or getting hurt. We have some safety knives, and they can use those to cut up veggies, but they will likely graduate to slightly, at least, sharper knives soon, and they may cut themselves. But that's how we learn the importance of focus and proper technique. I didn't get good with a knife by reading theory. I got good with a knife by, from practice. And because I just didn't really want to cut myself anymore. So it kind of forces you to get good and really think about what you're doing. Anyway, I think once you're a parent, the world sort of inevitably does start to get molded around your children in seeable and unseeable ways. And it forces you to re-examine what you want for them, how you want them to learn, what you want them to learn. For us, we just want our kids to think fondly of cooking and food and farming. And so we try to eliminate the pressure of those events while making their involvement accessible. The idea being, hopefully when they are older and they get a chance to cook for themselves or their families, the sights and smells smells and sounds of the farm, of food, will feel both familiar and joyful, and they'll want to do more of it and pass it on. Anyway, thoughts on parenting and shaping your farm around your kids? I'd be curious to know what you all think about that. We'll actually have more on that, in fact, next week for a special episode that will come on Tuesday. Very excited about that, but that's all the teaser that you'll get for now. Otherwise, we are done Wednesday. Don't forget, No-Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. You can learn more about how to do that in the show notes. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at no-tillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and the team at No-Till Growers. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a copy of the Living Soil Handbook or the Seed Farmer at no-tillgrowers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of, is it still May? Still May. Of May, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Madeline Messick. Madeline Messick. Oh, I like the alliteration here. Okay. So as our cyclists make their way, to the oasis that they see in the Nevada desert, which is how Nevada is pronounced in this dimension, notably, the greenness around them is beautiful and bewildering. It seems incredibly out of place in the desert, and the air suddenly feels cool and rich. And as they get closer, they notice that the greenness is beginning to spread, like it's physically spreading, not spread like they see more of it. It's spreading like it's growing, almost erupting. Grasses and vines and trees and etc. are slowly popping out of the desert around them. It seems to be, like almost spilling forth from the pool of pristine water at the center of it all. At one point, they even have to slap a vine away that tries to crawl up their legs. It is slowly crawling up the mountain and, the two hillsides that they saw there, and they see it slowly overtake a nearby car. Think like lava, but green and more or less harmless. Or is it? That is for tomorrow on the Great Oasising. Yep. Great Oasising. I think that works. All right. Thanks for watching and or listening. We will see you tomorrow for Thursday. Whatever we do on Thursdays, we'll do that. Bye.